So we chose Chipotle for our group project. Go to the next slide. So here's just a little background of Chipotle. It was founded in 1993 by Steve Ells. He worked as a chef for another restaurant out west, and he founded Chipotle in 1993 to help fund a fine dining restaurant he always dreamed of running himself. So it was kind of just started to fund that, and then it ended up doing well. So he kept the company and then ended up making more branches of it. Their mission statement is to win today while making a bright future for focusing on the fundamental strategies he implemented, and they are making the brand more visible and loved, creating innovation utilizing a stage gate process, leveraging our digital make line to expand access and convenience, engaging with customers through their loyalty program, and running successful restaurants with a strong culture that provides great food, hospitality, throughput, and economics. They have a total of 83,000 employees throughout all of their restaurants across the nation and even in other countries. 6,000 employees are salaried, and the other 77,000 get hourly pay.
So with the business level strategy, there was an issue where most Mexican food was either completely authentic and took time where you had to sit down at a restaurant, or it was Taco Bell where it was complete fast food, complete junk food, all grease. So Chipotle was the healthier takeout option, and it was much more widely available. So the solution was they created a high-speed grab-and-go system where they created a conveyor belt style restaurant. They wanted food with integrity, so their entire goal was to make organic and healthy food with no GMOs, no antibiotics, to make sure their food was the best possible for the public. It came into spotlight when there was negative outlooks on fast food like McDonald's and Taco Bell, so they really just decided to change the entire market of fast food entirely. So anyone who wanted a healthier option, they could go to Chipotle to get quick and easy access compared to any other brand. So strengths, they're definitely more efficient than a lot of other fast food options. They're completely customer oriented, and they show that through the efficiencies of their menu. They only have 53 ingredients in their entire possible menu. So it makes it quicker. So the food is actually more cost effective, and easier to assemble and get to the customer. They have a lot of locations, so it's easier for the consumers to access if they want to drive up themselves or maybe go for a lunch break. It's not going to be somewhere where it's a complete destination to drive to. There's going to be one at every corner, kind of like a McDonald's. The structure is a quick takeout option. It is a conveyor belt style, so each employee has a designated section to get the food along and then to finally get to the cashier. They also created an app to simplify the reward system. So for every dollar you spend, you get 10 points. And if you get 1,250 points, you get a free meal through the app. And it also holds all your card information, so it's easier payment. Also, it's easy to place to-go orders through the app and the website. So if you don't necessarily have the most updated phone, you could do it through a computer, maybe at work or at home, if you just want to show up. So it's easier for those who may not be as tech savvy. They know how to use a website. It's also available through all major delivery services, at least within our area in Monmouth County. So it is on Postmates, Uber Eats, Grubhub, and DoorDash. Of course, with the delivery fee, but with a subscription to their accounts, you pay a little extra for the year. It'll be free. And because their menu is so limited, it's also affordable, so they don't have to pay for a bunch of extra things that they may not have thought necessary before. And they're also extremely sustainable. So they've been reducing waste as much as possible, and they've been making their containers biodegradable. and more eco-friendly, as you can see pictured. They had a report detailing towards its sustainability efforts, including reducing the average restaurant waste by 25% since 2016, and they've been diverting waste from landfills by 42%. They've been utilizing napkins and bags made from 100% recycled fibers, like their bowls. They've been using paper cups certified by Sustainable Forest Initiative and adopted a recycling and compost program to divert waste at 88% of restaurants. The company is also targeting 2020 as the goal for tested recyclable or compostable cups, lids, and promoting strawless options and reducing plastic cutlery by 20% and incorporating recycle and compostable diversion programs at all its restaurants. This relates to the UN's Sustainability Development Goals that is not completely implemented in the United States, but they would like to go towards that because they are being responsible for their consumption and production. And think of the life below water, using compostable materials and wasting less food.
Next, I'm actually going to be doing the analysis on the weaknesses of Chipotle. I'm first going to start off with the overall health concerns. In 2015, the E. coli outbreak is easily the most controversial time for the company. 1,100 people were infected by the outbreak. And in that settlement case, a payout of $25 million in federal fines were given to Chipotle for the role in some of those outbreaks. The next thing I'd like to talk about is their menu. Chipotle perfected the convenience of a bowl, burrito, and the tacos, but can become stagnant without innovation. Competitors like Moe's, Qdoba, and other restaurants use seafood options and different styles of entrees like nachos, quesadillas, and a wide selection of sauces. Look for Chipotle to possibly make a new queso because of lack of prior success. Even though they have already rebooted the recipe twice, I believe and hope for the third time is the charm. Next, I'm going to go on to their no drive-thru option. Chipotle has over 2,500 locations nationwide, and not a single one of those locations has a drive-thru window due to the perfected walked-in system. And like Emma talked about earlier, the mobile app. You can go on to the next slide, please. Next, I'm going to talk about the dependency of the U.S. consumer. As you can see on the right here, this map shows the U.S. Chipotle locations, by region. You could see in the East Coast how heavy it is, and the West Coast. Obviously, in the Midwest, it's kind of directed towards the major cities in Texas and Louisiana and parts of Florida and places like that. But overall, out of the 2,500 stores, out of the 2,500 stores nationwide, there's only 33 other locations outside of the United States, and that's usually in Canada or parts of the UK. So in terms of going on to the next part, becoming a more global impact, I believe that they will not really have an impact on the Latin American countries due to the already popular local restaurants like mom and like home cooking and stuff of that nature. Stuff of that nature already does the job really well. Europe, Asia, and Africa are mainly the emerging markets and could benefit from new Chipotle locations. Chipotle can ultimately have a major city impact ultimately anywhere. Next, I want to talk about the innovation to stay ahead. Like Emma talked about earlier, the mobile app does not have any crazy distinct features and just kind of gets the job done. Maybe more development and membership programs and a variety of offerings / modifications being offered in the app can lead to more use and possibly better loyalty over time. And the last one I want to talk about is the third-party delivery services offered by Chipotle. We know that they use Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub. And personally, as a user, sometimes those services actually mess up your orders. And in those cases, you can't really contact Chipotle. You can only contact those services. And sometimes they can refund you, but at the end of the day, you will not get a new bowl or burrito at those Chipotle locations. So in terms of communication, they can definitely step it up, possibly have a hotline or service center or something like that to kind of, lead the charge in developing more of that. So yeah, thanks.
So the ice strips analysis helps us think and compare ourselves to the competitors to improve and think of new ways to stand out. So here is where like we think or Chipotle thinks of like opportunities to be different and try to put themselves out there with new options. So with innovation, they ask themselves like what can we do to help innovate with the external environment? Here we decided that they could like use the opportunity to put in a drive-through. I remember reading an article and saying or hearing that like drive restaurants or like coffee places, if they have a drive-through, their revenue is like skyrocketed, whereas those who don't have a drive-through, the revenue is lower because people like the convenience of just driving through, paying, and getting their coffee right away. We also decided to like innovate them with like a loyalty program. Although they do have it on the app, if someone doesn't have the app, they should still be able to like a stamp card or something where they could also just get some kind of incentive from that way. With competition, they list their competitors. What are they doing? How are they changing? How are the competitors interacting with the environment? Their competition would be other Mexican restaurants like Bubacu's, Moe's, Qdoba, or other local places in like areas across the country. They have to see what they're doing with their communities. So like Chipotle does do like fundraisers for their community, which I think definitely helps because usually smaller places do that and most chain restaurants don't fundraise. For the economic factors, they ask how we can influence an individual's financial status. So economic factors would be like the location. You want to make sure it's in a location where people can afford Chipotle and not necessarily where they can't, obviously, because they want people to spend their money there. And the food waste, they don't want to be wasting food, so maybe they can try to cut back on that. Instead of like wasting it, maybe put like an extra bit of like chicken or whatever at the end of the night in someone's bowl so it doesn't just get thrown out. Or they could even maybe like donate leftover food to like local not charities, but like, oh, I can't think of the word. Like, I guess like hospitals or like things like that where people could use the food. And then demographics is where they want to like relate to like where they're going to put a location and who would be their target market. Chipotle's target market is obviously families, college students, professionals, and they want to make sure like average age, like they're not going to put a Chipotle in a retirement village because older people don't go to Chipotle. It's just like they like staying home, making food, ordering in from like restaurants. And then regulatory environments is where they have to consider rules, laws, and regulations, not only for the country, but like state and local as well. They need to meet food and kitchen standards, and they have to have the correct licenses in order to operate. Infrastructure is how they kind of determine like how they transport, communicate, and like what kind of buildings they have. Their infrastructure is based on like walking distances. In any college campus, you're going to find a Chipotle around the corner or in like driving distance. With that, they also have the delivery systems where if you can't walk or you don't have like an option to get there, they can come and bring the food to you. Partners are where they want to see how they can achieve success outside with local partners distant. Like I said, they have partners with schools and other fundraisers to help raise money. Not only does that increase the revenue for Chipotle, but it also gives back to the community. And they also have partners like Pepsi and Coke who provide their drinks, along with the delivery services such as DoorDash, Grubhub, and Uber Eats. Social trends, they want to keep seeing how like social trends are changing. Obviously, back in the day, it was fast food restaurants were the move. Now everyone's moving towards healthier options. So they want to make sure that they're keeping up with that, giving the people what they want. Also, takeout is a big social trend. No one really wants to go sit in a restaurant right now because of COVID. So thank God, like, they have the takeout option already. Not only that, but people like to eat when they're moving, eat quickly, get out, do whatever they need to do in a quick matter of time. Another trend would be like the buffet style over the counter ordering. People like to see how their food is being made, so that also helps. And then you can go on to the next slide. They also need to see what their competition is doing, how they can differentiate. So with that, they also lease buildings. Almost all of Chipotle's restaurants operate in leased properties subject to long-term leases. This is not overall like beneficial or financially efficient. Instead, they should be looking into buying locations. Obviously, the locations that are doing better, they're not going to buy a location in New York City because that would, one, be really expensive. Two, buildings have plenty of people that lease in New York. Town like West Palm Branch, they could obviously buy the location because people are going to know where it is, and they could just buy like one specific building just for them. With that, Chipotle's total liabilities are $3,421,578,000, and the long-term operating leases from the businesses is 78.3% of that, totaling like $2.7 billion. Therefore, they would be saving that much money if they, or a good amount of money if they bought out some of their buildings. Along with other opportunities, they should modify their menu. They have a broad menu of bowls, burritos, tacos, quesadillas, and salads. Like Derek said, if they add in maybe like shrimp tacos, people would be more into that, or nachos, just like a few other options that still fit into their brand, but making the menu wider. Another opportunity we discussed was having size options. Right now, Chipotle only has like one size, burritos or bowls, which is kind of a lot of food. So sizing options would help with proportions, not even, because some people don't want to get something where they're going to have a bunch of food in front of them. Sorry. Not have a lot of food in front of them because then they're going to overeat. Smaller sizes can make, like, with smaller sizes, people will be paying less because they're not getting as much, which can target other people who maybe don't have enough money all the time to be spending $12 on a burrito. And then the drive-through, it's quick service, as I said, benefits customers, and most businesses with drive-throughs always do better than those that don't. Delivery, although they have delivery with DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Grubhub, stuff like that, if they had their own option, the profits would be going directly to Chipotle and not through the third party. And then you can go to the next slide. Lastly, these are the, oh, there should be wait, go back.
Sorry.
Okay, you're good. These are the last two opportunities that I think are like the biggest way that Chipotle can go. If they had college inclusion, it fits their demographic because college students love eating out but being affordable. And then if they added that, like obviously when people live on college campuses, they have a meal plan for like the first 2 years, and then they move out and they can get dining dollars to eat on campus whenever they want, or even like meal swipes to eat in. Usually on some like bigger campuses, they have local restaurants that take like their meal plan money or like dining dollars. So if Chipotle started doing that, it could also be an option because these meal plans are already prepaid. So then if they just swipe it, it's not like the person is actually losing their money. They're just using it on an option they would want. And the loyalty program, if Emma said that they have it on the app, but as I said, not everyone has the app. No, I didn't know that there was an app you could have in Chipotle. I don't have it. So like a stamp card or even like a point system that you can use with your phone number when you go there would be beneficial as well.
So for threats, we talked about both internal and external threats. The first one is their food safety. Obviously they had an E. coli outbreak that happened in 2015, and then it happened again in 2018. This was because of improper food handling. They also had a problem with salmonella. Earlier this year, they had to pay $25 million fine to the FDA because of a foodborne illness, and it was traced back to them, so they had to pay it. more than 1,000 people were affected. And then this happened again in 2018 in Ohio, where over 650 people were affected. They got food poisoning, because of improper temperatures when they stored the food. Another threat is organic eating. There was obviously a meat shortage at the beginning of this year, and there's also many problems with the FDA and the laws and regulations that they have with the feeding and raising of animals. Most recently, Chipotle has had an issue with pork. Can you go to the next slide? Obviously, the Mexican restaurant industry is growing. New companies like Moe's, not new, but companies like Moe's, Taco Bell, Del Taco, and other chains have come in. They also have to compete with local businesses in the areas specific to where they are. As you can see this chart, it shows other restaurants that aren't just Mexican food, like Panera and Five Guys, to name a few. Another threat they face is their operation hours. In my area, Taco Bell is open till 1. They open up at 7 a.m. and it closes at 1. Whereas Chipotle opens at 10:45 and they only stay up until 10. This obviously has changed because of the COVID situation. Yeah, that's it.
So addressing our SWOT analysis, one of the biggest strengths is having 53 ingredients. So people know exactly what could possibly be going into their system. And it's very clear that it is environmentally friendly, eco-friendly, non-GMO, none of the stuff that could harm your system. It's the healthier fast food option. And it still tastes good without thinking you're eating rabbit food, which is really nice. Constant food and safety regulations due to the concerns related to E. coli.
I can take from here, but these are kind of like the weaknesses in terms of our SWOT analysis and addressing our weaknesses. In terms of not leaving out food for too long and making sure cross-contamination is non-existent, kind of goes back into the E. coli issue and can have impact in terms of COVID-19. That's kind of how it all stemmed from cross-contamination. We also look to also develop a global plan to impact a larger group instead of only Americans, and also look to implement a loyalty or membership program for Chipotle's success due to other competitors.
Creating and implementing options that competitors have that they don't is definitely something they need to do. It'll allow them to have more opportunity for growth in sales. It'll allow them to be different, so people like different. They might have something that other local restaurants don't, and the incentives program would definitely help them, as people like getting stuff for free, even though it's not free because you pay X amount of dollars beforehand to get it. We also think that pre-made meals in select stores could also benefit them. Not only that, but like the seasoning and spices they use, people can kind of make their own Chipotle at home. So some food restrictions that Chipotle could have would be like the meat shortages, like in the beginning of this year because of COVID. It was hard to get chicken, any kind of meat. I know Emma went to Chipotle recently and they didn't give her chicken because they were out. The 56 ingredients is also, it's good for them, but it also kind of limits them in a way as they don't want to add anything else that could change that, because they like to have the ingredients that people know of. And they want to stay local and organic because that's what they're known for. They don't want to put any harmful things into anyone's body. And in order to stay organic, the FDA requires no hormones or therapeutic antibiotics in order for them to have that label. COVID restrictions limited the amount of people in the store and those working, so service might have been slower and revenues could have been down because people were scared to go out and only a certain amount of people can order at one time and wait for their food. They also have to follow the food and safety restrictions, wearing gloves, masks, making sure the food is at the right temperature and stored correctly. And hourly restrictions also impacted the restaurant, as they could have stayed open longer, but because of COVID, they had to cut their hours shorter depending on where you lived. And some restaurants may have different like state and local regulations where they can't open till like noon, whereas others can open at like 10:45.